Story 1. Terror in the Basement. It was mid-November in Midtown Manhattan, and the office building where I worked as a security guard looked like an abandoned fortress in the freezing darkness. The basement, which I was sent to investigate, was a maze of storage rooms, electrical components, and cleaning supplies. The elevator was out of order, and the power was out, making my descent into the basement all the more terrifying. The basement was a maze of hallways and small rooms. My flashlight was my only companion in the stifling darkness. The air was heavy with dust and decay, and the silence was occasionally broken by the eerie creaking of the building sinking. My job was to check for reported broken doors and investigate any potential break-ins. As I moved through the basement, I saw that many of the doors had been violently forced open. The damage was severe. Some of the doors looked as if they had been hacked off. The sight was unsettling, suggesting that whoever had been there was not only determined but also violent. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed through the basement, followed by an eerie silence. My heart pounded as I realized that the sounds of the building, the pipes, the machinery had stopped. My flashlight pierced the darkness, and each I called out, my voice shaking and echoing in the vast space. The silence was deafening, and my fear only grew. As I turned my head, I heard slow, heavy breathing coming from the corner. My flashlight barely penetrated the darkness, but I could make out a tall, hunched figure facing the wall. The silhouette of the figure was terrifying. It was unusually tall, and its head was irregularly shaped. In its hand, it held something that looked like a weapon. I felt a wave of terror. My instinct was to run, and I sprinted toward the stairs, shouting that the police were on their way. The figure remained still, and I could hear its breathing growing louder as I ran. I dashed up the stairs, locked the basement door behind me, and called 911. When the police arrived, they searched the basement thoroughly. They found no trace of the figure or any evidence of tampering beyond what I had reported. The building's electricians later discovered that the circuit box had been tampered with, causing the power to fail. Despite a thorough search, the intruder was never found. The encounter left me deeply unsettled, and for weeks I lay awake at night, afraid that the figure might return. Story 2. The Disappearing Nurse's Office. In 2002, I worked the night shift at a newly opened call center in Makati. The office layout was unconventional, resembling a donut with a central area that served as the elevator lobby and the rest of the office divided into 2 long, bright hallways and 2 shorter, darker sections. The production floor, bustling with activity, was well lit and functional. However, the other half of the donut, used for storage, conference rooms, and administrative purposes, was still under construction. It was dimly lit and had an unsettling atmosphere, often feeling like a maze of concrete and unfinished rooms. On a particularly cold night, my TL colleague came down with a severe migraine. Despite her discomfort, she was determined to continue working until I suggested she go to the nurse's office, which was located in the unfinished area. The nurse's office was supposed to be equipped to handle minor medical issues, and since the sign said it was open, we hoped she might find relief there. We made our way to the nurse's office, walking through the dark hallways. The nurse's office, marked by a sign above the door, seemed to glow softly from the light shining below. We reached the door, and I tried the handle. To our surprise, the door was locked, but the lights were still on inside. Looking through the vertical window, we saw what looked like a fully equipped examination room. Medical equipment, hospital beds, and everything one would expect from a functional nurse's office. Thinking the nurse might be on a break, we decided to return later. After about half an hour, we walked back to the nurse's office. This time, the lights were off. The door, which had been locked earlier, was now only slightly ajar. A feeling of anxiety crept over us as we cautiously pushed the door open and stepped inside. The room was unlike anything we had seen before. Instead of a fully equipped clinic, we found ourselves in a bleak, empty space. The walls and floor were bare concrete, illuminated only by a small nightlight flickering in an exposed socket. The stark contrast to what we had seen before was disorienting. There were no medical supplies, no beds, just an eerie emptiness that seemed to swallow up the dim light from the nightlight. The sight was so jarring that we stood rooted to the spot, trying to process the change. The room was cold and uninviting, the concrete floor and walls offering no comfort at all. It was as if the clinic we had seen before had been a figment of our imagination. Just as we began to discuss what we had seen, a security guard approached. He looked at us with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion, noticing us lingering in the unfinished area. We explained what had happened, detailing the stark differences between the two visits. The guard's skepticism was evident. He seemed to think we were mistaken or making up stories. His demeanor suggested that he thought we were simply frightened by the unfinished, poorly lit state of the building. As we continued to discuss the situation, an unusually cold air filled the air. The sudden drop in temperature made our breathing visible in the dim light. My heart raced as the air grew heavier, and cold sweat broke out on my skin. Who had appeared distressed from the start, began to shake uncontrollably and burst into tears. Her fear was real, and the guard, now clearly uncomfortable, hurriedly escorted us back to the production area. We were quickly ushered out of the nurse's station, the door locked behind us. As we walked back to the bright, bustling half of the room, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The strange encounter left a deep impression on both of us. We reported the incident to the team leader, who listened to our story with a stunned expression. TL's distress was obvious, and she gasped, unable to calm down. Although we had recounted the details, the incident seemed to have disappeared from the discussion. The nurse's office, once the focal point, was quickly forgotten. The unfinished office remained an unsettling place, filled with darkness and disturbing memory. The experience was never mentioned again, and the nurse's office was said to have become a haunting memory for us. The building, once a place of work, now resembled a shell of unspoken fears and strange occurrences forever etched into the fabric of the unfinished office corridors. If you enjoyed this creepy story and want to hear more horror stories that will leave you breathless, give this video a like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. By liking and subscribing, you will never miss out on the latest horror stories and safety tips to stay alert. Your support helps us bring you more thrilling content and build our community of horror enthusiasts. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you'll be the first to know when a new video is released. Stay safe and stay scared. Story 3. The Office Ghost. It was a stormy Wednesday evening in Orlando, Florida, and the office of our small game development company felt more like a haunted fortress than a productive workplace. The rain poured down relentlessly, the heavy patter of rain on the windows mixed with the occasional rumble of thunder. I had been up late for weeks, racing against an approaching deadline. The storm outside seemed to mirror my stress, amplifying my sense of isolation as I worked alone. My coworker Chase had left hours ago, and the office was now eerily silent, save for the steady patter of rain. The office was designed in an L shape, with my workspace at the end of the short arm of the. It was supposed to be a cozy nook, but tonight, it felt like a trap. Needing a break to clear my head, I trudged down the hall to the kitchen to reheat my coffee. As I waited for the microwave, I heard a faint, unpleasant noise, a door closing somewhere in the office. Not the heavy front door, but something smaller, softer. My heart skipped a beat. I looked into the hallway, calling out, but the only response was the echo of my voice swallowed by the silence. As I wandered down the hallway, checking each door. They were all locked, including the door to my office, which I had left ajar. A chill ran down my spine as I threw open the door to my office, half expecting to find someone hiding. But the room was as I had left it. My chair was where I had pushed it, and the computer screen still displayed the code I had been working on. It was strange that the door had closed on its own, but I pushed the thought aside and returned to my work. The storm outside was growing fiercer, and with each flash of lightning, I felt a surge of fear. Hours passed, and my exhaustion was slowly catching up to me. I decided it was finally time to shut down my computer and go home. As I clicked the shutdown button, the screen went black. In its reflection, I saw something that made my blood run cold. A woman standing behind me. Her presence was so terrifying that I could barely breathe. My heart pounded as I fought the urge to scream. I didn't turn around. I slowly stood up, trying to stay calm, grabbed my bag and walked toward the door, pretending not to see her. My mind raced with fear, imagining her following me. I walked down the long hallway, each step echoing in the empty office. When I reached the exit, I dashed down the stairs and out into the rain. My fear was palpable, as if she could reach out and grab me at any moment. I got into my car and took a moment to catch my breath, glancing back at the office. The lights in my office were still on, and through the blinds, I thought I saw a small crease, as if someone were watching me. My heart was pounding again, and I quickly called my boss, Miranda. She assured me that no one else was allowed in the office. Miranda promised to send the night guard to check the place. Miranda called me back that night. The guard had checked the office but found no one. The only camera in the office, located at the end of the longer hallway next to the kitchen, had picked up no sign of the mystery woman. I was stunned, knowing that someone or something had been there with me in the dark. The office, once familiar and safe, now felt like a sinister trap, and I could never escape the feeling of eyes watching me from the shadows.